Hello, and thank you for joining us here at the Aston Martin Heritage Podcast. I'm Garry Taylor, and thank you very much for joining us. For this podcast, we are in Norfolk, and more precisely at the Stratton Motor Company. And within these absolutely lovely surroundings on this beautiful sunny day is the Managing Director, Roger Bennington. Hello, Roger.
Good morning. Good to have you here.
Thanks very much for the invite. Roger, how did the Stratton Motor Company get its name? Because I come up a road, Long Stratton Road, is that it? Is that what it's called, Long Stratton Road?
We're actually on the A140, which is the Norwich-Ipswich Road.
Right.
I think you came on a back road.
The sat-nav was brilliant. Yes, that's the Aston Martin sat-nav for you. I must say, went through the back roads. So that's where it's got its name from, is it?
Basically, yes, it had a funny name. When we bought the building, it was Harvey and Duffield, so we changed it to Stratton Motor Company.
Yeah.
So we left Long Stratton off because it was too long, so we just called it Stratton Motor Company.
Okay. Can we go back to the very early days, to a young Roger Bennington, and perhaps even before that? Were your parents involved in the motor industry, engineering in any way?
Yes, my father had a number of garages around where the M25 is today, and I was brought up in the motor industry and worked in the garage as a kid before I left school. I left school at 15 and went to college. Didn't last long there, and I got straight into an apprenticeship, and I started an apprenticeship around Chelmsford and Brentwood. One was Eastern Automobiles. I remember they were the big Rover dealers locally, and the other one was Pollard's, who did Jaguars. So I had a good grounding up, but unfortunately my father retired in 1959, and he then moved to Norfolk, and I didn't really want to go to Norfolk, so I stayed on with the new owners, finished my apprenticeship, and then ended up running the garage that my father had owned before I moved up to Norfolk, when I decided that I would go and start my own business.
So you say you was running your father's business?
I was, yes. By that time, it was owned by somebody else.
Oh, okay. How old were you then?
About 17, 18.
Okay, so I think you decided fairly early on that you were going to be in the motor trade. Is that right?
Yes, I always knew I was going to be in the motor trade. In fact, when I went to school, we ran an engineering department. We had our own cars there. It was a 100-acre school, so I used to run an engineering department there and teach boys to drive on the fields.
What was your first car?
My first car, road car. First car when I was about 8 or 9. I bought an old post office van, which I used in the orchard behind the garage to learn to drive and slide it around. But my first car was an MGTC, which I bought when I was 16 and passed my driving test on my 17th birthday and was straight off.
Was there anything else you ever wanted to do? Was it just the motor trade?
No, I always wanted to be around performance cars, and I never thought I would be able to afford an Aston Martin at that stage. But no. I got into Aston Martins in 1968. I'd always gone to the motor show every year and looked at them and been on the stand and admired them. And I DB6 Valenti in 1968, and ever since then I've never been without one or two Astons around me.
What was the? You said the business. It was started in June '72, and it was known as the Harvey and Duffield. Was it
Harvey and Duffield? They were an Austin MG Morris dealer.
Yeah.
And we bought that in June the 12th, 1972, just over 52 years ago. And we did start to sell the Austins and Morrises, but that wasn't really for us. It was a volume car dealership. And '76 we got into Aston Martin.
Doesn't strike me as an easy step to take, was it? I mean, did you have any contacts with Aston Martin? How did you go from Austin Morris to Aston Martin?
Well, I got to know the factory quite well, really, because I always was running an Aston Martin most of the time, personally. And we used to obviously get parts from Newport Pagnell, and I got to know Kingsley Riding Fels, who we've been great mates over the last, I suppose, nearly 50 years. An opportunity came up when Managing relinquished the Aston dealership in Norwich, and they'd sold quite a few DB6s around, and they just said to me, there's an opening here in Norfolk because the local dealers giving up, and we've got a lot of problems up there with fuel injected DBSs and late DB6s. Would you be interested? We jumped at the chance, and that's how we got going.
Perfect. And you've never looked back, really, have you?
No,
from Aston Martins.
We grew fairly quickly. The first few years was difficult because I remember we had to buy a large selection of parts, which was mandatory. We had to buy the specialised tools, and that cost more than the average daily car at that time. I remember it was about £5,000 for the tools, and I can't remember, but the average car was about £1,200 then, so it was quite an expensive operation to get into.
Did you have, if I can mention HWM, because they had British Leyland and Aston Martin running side by side. Did you have the same? Did you have Austin Morris and Aston Martin running side by side for a while?
Yeah. What actually happened, we got quite involved in second-hand Aston Martins and built that up. We then started to get involved in new car inquiries, and we were borrowing cars from other distributors. I worked a bit with Robin Hamilton. I remember I worked a bit with HWM, and we ended up then overtaking the distributor at Cambridge, that was Marshall's at the time, and we started selling new cars, and then we became a distributor in the early 80s and never really looked back after that.
You mentioned that you went down the Aston Martin route, and it arose from going to motor shows. Is that where the passion for Aston Martin came from, do you think?
Yes, I think so. I mean, when I first got to motor shows, we had the DB5 and the DB4 and all the Zagatos and such like, and then obviously went on to the V8s in the 70s.
Yeah.
And by the time I became a distributor, the V8 was well established, and that's where I started selling. And I was probably one of the highest selling dealers of V8s, because there was only 7 actual dealers in the 80s. And most of them were asleep. There was only 2 or 3 of us were active, and I used to go all over the place to Wales and Cornwall and Devon and all around Essex, and I had lots of contacts in Essex, so I went, and then we used to sell quite a few cars.
Well, you must have pedalled quite hard, because you started from we had no client base at the time, did you? Because there was
no client base at all.
No.
But with motor shows, we started doing motor shows. Motor shows were very interesting in those days because Aston had no money, and I remember Kingsley and
shock horror there, ladies and gentlemen. Aston Martin had no money.
Kingsley and I used to go to a few days before the motor show opened, and we used to build the stand, and then we used to use our own trucks.
Was that Earls Court?
Earls Court and Birmingham.
Yeah.
We used to build a stand, put the cars on it, work 10 days, and then we used to clear it all up at the end. But from those motor shows, we got a lot of contacts, and we'd follow them up, and sometimes it'd take 3 or 4 years to get one of those guys on board, but that's where we started with those motor shows.
Because the motor shows in those days, you could sell from the stand, couldn't you?
Yeah, we always took orders from the stand. Yeah.
You came in at Aston Martin with the troublesome fuel injection era.
Correct.
That's probably right. I mean, did you manage to solve those troublesome cars?
Yes, we got used to doing them, and the beauty of it, I was running one myself, so it was easy to actually get used to the cars, and that's where I think I scored over many of the other dealerships. I was hands on, working in the workshop initially when I first came here.
Yeah.
So it was it was a no-brainer really.
Yeah. How did you? It seems a crass question. How did you and Kingsley get on? Were you?
We formed a very good friendship.
I was going to say, good friendship there.
We still talk to each other on a regular basis, even today. Now he's retired.
Yes. I bet those motor show days were quite fun, weren't they?
Oh, there's a few tales that could be told.
Well, are you willing to be telling them?
One day I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to say some of those.
We'll come back to the podcast when the book is launched. Okay, right.
But I remember one of the motor shows was quite an interesting motor show. I can't remember. I think it was '89 where we launched the Virage, and we had a Virage there that didn't run, but it was on sale, and we had absolutely was swamped with customers. We were so busy. We were getting in there in the mornings at 8 o'clock, and it was opening at 9 o'clock, and we were still on the stand at 8 o'clock in the evening. And during that motor show, not only did we sell Virage, but we then invented the Virage Volante, and then we invented the Virage Volante Vantage, and we were taking deposits on a regular basis. I sold over 60 cars during that motor show,
My goodness, that's a volume.
It was very complicated because we were so busy. People were coming up, I want one, Roger, get me one, and they'd write a cheque out. The deposit was 20 grand, and they'd stuff the cheque in your top pocket and go, because I was with another customer, and nobody else come, I want one. And I'd write it on a bit of paper. And so when I was getting back to the hotel in the evening, I would be emptying my pockets on the bed and thinking, I've got a cheque for 20, another one cheque for... And I was trying to remember who all these cars... And then we were getting deposits arriving in our client account, because we were very clever. We actually opened our own client account, so all the clients' money... And it was probably a year, 18 months after the motor show before I identified some of the deposits that had been sent in, who they came from. So it was.
They rang up and said, "I haven't heard from you."
Yeah.
I mean, he said, "Oh, you're that person."
Yeah. Well,
not quite like that.
We were taking different deposits. Victor was quite pleased with what we were doing, and he said, "Oh, right, okay. Well, we haven't designed the Volanti, so we better do that, but we better get a bit more deposits." So we then decided Volantis would be 25. And then the next day we said to Victor, well, we've now got inquiries for the Advantage version. No problem, ask them 30. And so we had all these deposits pouring in, and we had a very, very nice little order book, but unfortunately recession hit us.
Yes, was
2 years later before the cars got delivered, and
Yeah.
a lot of the people couldn't unfortunately take their cars.
The Virage hit the sweet spot because it was the first new car under Victor Gauntlet, really, was it? Because we played the V8 Saloon, as it was known then, was quite aging, wasn't it?
Yes.
The Lagonda was been around since 76, something like that.
76, 70.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
really got going at about 78, 79.
So Virage, in hindsight, now a good car, but it had a troublesome birth, didn't it? But it did
had a troublesome birth, mainly I think really due to the recession, and there was while the people that were there that had bought them, their business had gone wrong, and then they were trying to get their deposits back, and we'd built the cars to their specification for them. So it was
Right.
some guys accepted it, and some were a little bit troublesome.
Obviously, during that period, before the Virage, and going back to the motor shows, there was the Lagondas.
Lagondas.
That must have been an amazing car to present, to sell.
It was mainly, obviously, big overseas. It saved the company, really, having those Lagondas, because they used to sell a lot overseas. And we'd get a lot of overseas customers, which we would pick up at the motor shows. And then we'd get the contacts, and then they would stick with you and ring you up. And it was not unusual for somebody to ring up and say, His Highness is arriving in London for 2 weeks next week. Would you? We need to see a Lagonda, or would you come down? And then you'd actually have to take a car down to the Hilton or the Grosvenor, and you'd have to hang around for a day or two sometimes while you wait for them to be available, and then you'd keep selling the cars to these guys.
Now, I seem to recall a story where you took a Lagonda to a car park, and it was quite intriguing how they paid you.
Yes, basically, that was a very good deal, that one, really, because they rang up and said that His Highness is coming, and I can't remember whether it's the Grosvenor or the Hilton, but anyway, when we arrived there, and they said, well, we've got your parking space in the car park. So not only did they have a car park, they had the whole floor of the car park, so we went and parked the car. He said, no, His Highness is a little busy at the moment, but he's reserved your room, and anything you want, just order, and it's on the house, blah, blah. And you go to your room, and you just wait for him, and you order whatever you want, food or drink, wait there. Sometimes you can be there a couple of days, and suddenly they'd come racing after you and say, he's ready to see you. And you'd troop down to the car park, and he'd greet you, and all his minions were there, and the car would be on its own in the middle of a car park, and we'd wander around the car a few times and look at it. And yes, he said, yeah, that's fine, I'll take it. And he'd clap his hands, and somebody would appear with a briefcase, and it would be full of cash, and you'd count. Well, you wouldn't count the money, but you'd look at it and think, well, that's okay. Because basically, he said, yes, I'll take it. And this particular case, that the one guy I remember, he said, as he was going out the door, oh, and Mr. Roger, he said, another one tomorrow, please. And so, I had to get on the phone to Victor very quickly and see if we can rustle another one up. And I think the poor guys at the factory were probably working all night trying to finish another one, because cash flow for the factory was critical at that point.
And Victor, forever the salesman.
Oh, Victor would be
saw the
100%.
opportunity
You know,
there.
any opportunity, he would work with you to get the deal done.
Yeah.
And anyway, I had this pile of cash, and in those days it was more difficult because everybody would want their cut, the guy that introduced them, and so you'd have to just go to one room and just sort that out, and then off you go. So I used to jump in a taxi, jump on the train, and back to Stratton, get off and come, and then next day I'd go to the bank, pay the money in. But then I thought, well, actually, carrying this sort of money around is a bit silly, really. So I'll take a driver next time. So he was waiting, and then as this got to a regular basis, I'm thinking, actually, this is a bit silly. So one time I said to him, right, I'm going to pay this money to the local bank. You wouldn't mind if I borrowed your two guys to, no, help yourself. So then I was having his guys cart the briefcases to the bank when I used to go to a bank just off of Park Lane. And with all this cash, it could be 100 grand's worth of cash at times, and we just used to calmly pay it in. We can imagine doing that today.
Oh,
can't
yeah,
you?
okay. £100,000 over the till. They'll go for a heart attack now, wouldn't they?
There's no questions asked. You just told them where to pay it in, and they pay it in. They don't ask you where it's come from or whatever.
Wouldn't happen these days.
No.
Good grief. Beautiful.
Different
times.
It was great fun.
I just love the idea of you walking along Pall Mall or Park Lane, wherever it was, of 2 suitcases full of cash.
Yeah.
If only people knew.
Yeah. Well, we did collect a few briefcases over the years.
All right. You kept them, have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy days. Somehow the romance of a bank transfer is not quite there, is it, these days?
No, but you can't take cash anymore. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Money laundering and stuff.
Absolutely. So this happened what time was this? Late 70s?
That would be in the early 80s. That would when
So you'd only been going for about 10 years or so, hadn't you?
Yeah.
So a lot of a reputation.
We were in the 80s. We were the 3rd largest dealer in the world, and
that's quite a growth, isn't it?
Victor actually wrote a letter, stating that to me. That's why I know. I didn't know I was, and he was very impressed with what we did.
Yeah. How did you? What was your impressions of working with Victor Gauntlet? He was an amazing character.
Amazing character, and proper British bulldog, really. And he was a great ambassador for Aston Martin.
Yeah. I'm sure there's many a story there that will be told one day in your book.
Yeah.
We'll get a first copy here on the podcast, I'm sure. As you say, you've become the 3rd largest. Was it the 3rd largest distributor or sales of Aston Martin? Was it?
Yes, back in the 80s, and and we did actually sell a lot of cars, especially the V8 Vantage, the X-Packs, and what have you. But when we then started to move into Gaydon and things, the whole Aston changed really, because they appointed more PLC companies. Then they appointed one in Cambridge, which wasn't very helpful to us. It's too close to us. Obviously, it's gone now. It didn't last that long, and it's gone. But then they put all these new restrictions. They wanted us to build a glass showroom, and we looked at it, and they came up with all these plans. It's going to cost us about £6 million at the time to do, and we said we just we can't afford to do that and afford to stock your cars.
Yes.
So we ended up becoming a service dealer and a heritage dealer and a body shop dealer, because we just didn't want to invest that money in a showroom.
I was going to ask, how's your involvement with Aston Martin today? So it's on the heritage supply, restoration, servicing, is it?
Yeah, we do a lot for Aston Martin, a lot that we don't talk about. We briefly touched on a few jobs we've done for them for Bond and things like that. We work with them on the R&D stuff and things like that. We've worked with them on heritage bits. So we do work very closely with them, and I know all the guys there, still the ones that are still there.
What if a customer turns up in his Aston Martin, presumably from DB2 onwards, you would handle? Is it?
Well, we wouldn't turn any Aston Martin away.
No, is there a particular?
But we really don't have many Aston Martins pre-DB4. We have the odd DB24 comes in, but mostly all ours is 4, 5, 6 V8s and current range, DBX and Vanquishes and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the service and restoration and
service and
maintenance
restoration
that it
cars.
does.
As we still, to be honest, it's done a 180 because we still sell a lot of new cars, but we sell them through work service. We have a close relationship with them.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, and if we get a customer, we whip them down there or get them to come up here with their demo car and get the deal done.
It's probably not that far away, actually. If
108 miles door to door.
With a spirited drive and the roads are clear.
Well, this is the funny thing about it. In the 80s, we used to be able to do that journey from Newport Pagnell to here in an hour and 12 minutes. We could never break the hour barrier, but now it probably takes you 3 hours in the traffic.
Yeah.
And we've got bypasses. We used to go through the centre of Bedford in those days. It's amazing.
Different time as well. Okay.
There was no 70 limit to start with, was there?
Yeah, no. And I noticed in the showroom when before we had a recce for the podcast. I mean, it does seem to be quite a delicious flavour of the V8 Vantages from Newport Pagnell. We got the 550s, the variations of the Virage, if you like, 550, the Le Mans cars, and you had, which I never heard of, you had got the Stratton Le Mans. Is that?
Yeah, we did build.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, we originally we sold quite a few Le Mans. There was only 40 built, and I had an idea that we could do with some more. So we decided to take a straightforward 550 and convert it into a Le Mans. But it's obviously not an original Le Mans, so we called it a Stratton Le Mans, and we'd made it exactly the same. And these cars were well sought after pre-COVID, but obviously pre-COVID did actually cause the sales to drop a little bit. So we've got a few left. So and they're a lot cheaper than the normal car, the normal Le Mans.
I don't think I've asked you this. The question so far is why Aston Martin? I mean, was it just the impression from a young lad at the motor shows?
No, I think Aston Martin.
And why you've stayed with Aston Martin?
Why Aston Martin is Aston Martin. It's a really fantastic British product. It's lots of people that have got them there. They are passionate about the brand. Lots of people have had Aston Martins all the way. What I call the real Aston Martin genuine collector sometimes has more than one, and they not everybody uses them every day. They keep them for their fun and holidays and recreation things, or race them. It's just a nice mark to be involved with,
Yeah, so I think we come across that. There is a passion which you can't necessarily quantify or explain, but it just gets into your soul a little bit, and you sniff around at Jensen at the time or others, but it just keeps drawing you back, doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, I've been with Aston a long time, and they've been through some pretty rough times where they've, nearly run out of cash, and cash flow's been bad, and they've, but they've always survived. There's always someone charges in on the white horse and rescues it and gets it going again.
Yeah, well, they're probably going through it again at the moment, and the motor industry as a whole is having a very tricky time at the moment, isn't it, for transition to electrification and that? Yeah,
so I don't think the electric car is the right thing for us in total, because we don't have the infrastructure for it. That's great for some people that live in the towns, but for long distance journeys and fun driving and events that you do, Goodwood and things like that, you need an Aston Martin.
Absolutely. Because you don't just deal with Aston Martin. I think we can say, although it's an Aston Martin Heritage Podcast, I think we are allowed to say Lotus. We are allowed to say Morgan. So you sell those as well now on the, not necessarily new, but you used to distribute those as well, didn't you?
We did do Lotus for a while. We had a separate department that did Lotus, but then they decided to do factory sales, so we don't do new cars anymore, but we do a lot of work for Lotus as well, especially on their racing side. We do a lot of their movements for racing and infrastructure for racing, and we used to race a few of their cars and run a GT4 team for them. But Morgans again, most of the Morgans we have seem to be taken in, to be honest, from Aston deals, and we do take other cars in when we sell on Aston. So
I saw a lone Porsche in the showroom.
You get the odd Porsche.
The odd Porsche. So it is allowed in there.
Yeah.
All right.
911s seem to be they're a very popular car, and a lot of 911 owners like to buy one of the little V8s. It seems.
You mentioned motor racing with Lotus, so it brings me quite neatly into talking about motor racing, because there was Stratton Motorsport, wasn't there?
That's correct.
Does that still exist?
That does. First of all, it started out as Heritage Racing Support, and that was back in the 70s and early 80s. And what happened there was that I used to rally, but I then decided...
What, behind the wheel or navigating?
Behind the wheel, yeah. We were quite good and successful with that. We ended up with a works car. We had a TR7 V8 for that.
Oh, beautiful.
We then decided to go circuit racing, which we started it with the TR, but we quickly then developed a V8 Aston Martin for the job, and we had a lot of success with that. We then got other customers wanting us to prepare their cars, so suddenly this company was formed, and it was a good advert for us, and we built the heritage business up very well with that, with DB4s, 5s, and the V8s racing. Which then a bit later we then decided to get the GT4, the Aston Martin GT4, which is obviously the V8 road car. And we then formed another company called Stratton Motorsport to deal with that. And we bought cars. We were very successful with that. Got a lot of guys to come to racing that never raced before. We ab initio people, I call them, and we trained them and got them going, and then they ended up buying a car, or we'd rent them a car and do that. And then that got bigger and bigger, and then we got into British GT, etc., etc. And then unfortunately COVID hit, and then it all went a bit funny for a couple of years. We lost our, we had to stop racing for 2 years with COVID, and recently we just started getting back into it, having bought Versetti. So we've now got the later GT4, the 17As and the 40As, and we hope to be back into British.
Those cars look quite impressive, don't they?
Yeah. We hope to be back into British GT next year.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Is it because you enjoyed the racing, because you had a racing background to yourself, and that's why you did it?
Yes, I think so. But it's also you meet a lot of good people, and you meet some really good Aston people in that. And you end up selling them a road car or looking after their road car, and they're not just customers. That a lot of them become friends. So you have a good social life with it as well.
I remember seeing your support lorries, your support hospitality, and your transport trucks at various AMHT meetings and Silverstone brands, actually with a GT4, whatever. You do things properly, don't you? You don't, I mean, I see in the motorsport and in the showroom, particularly in motorsport, because that's probably where it makes more impact. Your vehicles are beautifully prepared, aren't they?
Well, we like to think so. We like to buy nice trailers, because people with a valuable car like to know that they're being treated right, and it's a nice thing to have for the brand. Customers appreciate somewhere to come and have a look at the cars that we're racing. And as you know, we did actually run the AMOC racing for a number of years, but unfortunately with COVID, I think it sort of dwindled a little bit in numbers, so it became a bit uneconomical to make it break even, because the cost of hiring the circuits for the day was rather crazy. Extraordinary. We were, probably paying about £40,000, £50,000 to hire the circuit for the day, plus all the medics and the recovery and all the marshals and everything. It just got uneconomical because we couldn't sell enough entries fees to break it even. So we were always topping it up to make it. So we did it for a number of years, and then decided that we couldn't really keep it up anymore.
Okay. Going back to the road car sort of things, the showroom and the workshop in particular, you deal with a wide range of cars in the workshop, from modern stuff with all the electronic Gizmos and God knows where else on these things, to, should we say, the classic versions, the 456 and the V8s. How do you find workshop technician staff to be able to deal with points, carburetors and all that sort of thing? Also then you got someone with just plug it in, you have to...
That is a very good question, and it's a very important question really, because if you take a modern technician on, he's actually no good to us at all. You know, if we take someone that works in BMW, he's great. He plugs in. Oh, it's the so and so that's gone wrong. He fits a new bit, puts it. It's done. It's done. With our cars, it's not. We need guys with experience. So we've got a lot of guys with us that have been here over 50 years,
Really?
right at the start, and so they've known Aston Martins. I think our oldest serving member is 52 years, and then we've got some 49-year-old ones and some 30-year-old ones, and they've all come in, when we were doing Aston Martin. So what we're very keen now to do, and we are doing it, we've got a number of apprentices every year that join us, and we're not actually taking them through the normal apprenticeship that they get from the college. We're taking them to Bicester, where they operate a heritage apprentice scheme.
Right, yes, I've heard of it.
And they're learning all about magnetos, dynamos, and plugs and points, etc., etc. And those guys then work alongside our guys in the week, and then they get I can't remember how many weeks, every sort of 7 or 8 weeks they get a week release to go to Heritage, where they get some more training, and then they come back and put that training into perspective. For example, I showed you earlier, we bought an old car that the guys that are learning about painting to work on can't let them loose on a customs car, but they can play around with an
car's an old Sunbeam Talbot or something.
Talbot,
it's been bashed around. It looks very good bashed around, actually. To learn the craft on it.
But it's very important to get these guys up to speed before we lose our guys, because they'll, when they get to 60, they'll retire.
Absolutely.
And there's so much knowledge in these old brains. We need to capture that knowledge, and we need to enhance it. It's a bit like Thatchers, and people that build these stone walls. They're dying out. You need new blood to come in and train it, because otherwise you won't be able to get Thatcher soon. Because it's quite difficult to get a thatched house rethatched, isn't it?
Yes. Well, it's encouraging that you're investing in the future, trying to get the youngsters involved with, as you say, magnetos and plugs and points and panel work and the rest of it. I think it's fantastic. You covered earlier about electric vehicles.
Yes,
you do. We're not going to do a market analysis, because we'll all be millionaires. We did market analysis and we knew where we were going. But where do you feel the future is on something like synthetic fuel?
I think that's a fantastic. We first tried it, or I personally tried it at Goodwood. Lord March asked us to run some cars in a race there, and he supplied the fuel, and we were amazed. We didn't have to do any adjustments to the engine, and it just ran absolutely perfect. They got Anglo-American fuel supplies there, who actually specialised in all that stuff. We worked together. So we had a race with Ford Mustangs, actually it was, with 30-odd cars all on this synthetic fuel. So and it proved it works. He's now very keen to run a lot more of his races on this stuff. And I think that's personally the way to go, because if you listen to JCB, Lord Bamford, he's working on other stuff, as you know. But how the hell do you actually get a JCB in a field? It's heavy enough without putting batteries in it to be electric.
That's hopeless.
It's hopeless, isn't it? And, and then when it runs, it's probably an hour to get into the field that he's working on, and then it runs out of battery. How do you get it charged? So that is never going to work for everything, and it will work. The electric will work for the cities where you can probably just do 100 miles in and out all day, but it's not working for the guys that do a 7-hour drive up to Scotland or somewhere and then drive back and they can't find it. Because I have people that have had electric cars and they said, never again. I'm running out of electric. I've got to turn the radio off. I've got to turn the heater off to get home. It's ridiculous.
Well, I suppose it's horses for courses. Whatever suits you at the time. I think the electric vehicles probably have a
I think it works.
People.
I think we'll get a bit of everything. I think we'll get a bit of hydrogen. I think we'll get a bit of sustainable fuel. I think we'll get a bit of electric. I think a bit of a mixture.
Yes.
And the trouble with electric cars is the economics of it. When they're 5 years old, the battery's a bit iffy. The car's a bit worthless when they're 5 years old. Nobody wants to take them in part exchange. So what's going to happen to all the cars and the batteries?
I don't know. I'm sure nobody knows.
As long as we
really.
can still sell Astons and get
As long
petrol,
as-
I think that's
absolutely.
the main thing.
Keep selling Astons. I'm going to put you slightly on the spot. I'm going to allow you to be politically correct here. What do you think of the current range?
Oh, I like the current range, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm particularly fond of the DBX. I think that's a fantastic car. It's an all-round car. It's not only a four-wheel drive car. It does sport car. You know, if you drive one, you can either press a few buttons and it lowers itself down and goes off like a sports car. So
Yeah.
you could actually use that rather than have two Astons, a convertible or a sports car and a Range Rover. That'll do both jobs. You know,
It's an all-round weapon. Somebody told me. I did fortunately
And
manage to drive one a while back. I mean, it's
it is
phenomenal car.
the 707 is a proper weapon.
Yes.
Proper weapon.
And they made a faster one. Yeah, I didn't get out the 707 thinking we needed a faster car here,
Yeah.
but they've made an S version, haven't they, apparently? So perhaps these things will find their way to your showroom at some point.
Well, we've got a few DBXs at
Yeah.
the moment are laying around, but
Yeah.
but it's nice to have a selection of cars. So when someone rings up and they want something, we normally got something. May not have the right colour,
Yeah.
but we'll probably have a car you can come and have a look at.
Where are your customers coming from now? Because when we went round, you said, well, we've got somebody from Japan, Australia, or whatever.
They come from all over the world, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, and it's having done it for 50 years. You know, I've got a fairly good contact
Right.
base, and people trust you if you've dealt with them before, and they're happy. They sometimes don't even look at the car. They'll ring up and tell me what they want, and we'll supply it.
And the cars keep coming back to you. I think you showed me a car in
they
the
do.
showroom, and
Yeah.
there's I don't know how many times you sold it. I lost track of it.
Well, I think that answers your earlier question. Well, there's quite a lot of earlier V8s and X-Packs around, because I did sell a lot of those new, and a lot of those here I've sold before
Yes.
a couple of times, and
Yeah.
some cars I've sold 6 or 7 times that have come back, you know,
Right.
because they're all repeat business customers.
Yeah. How do you see as we start to wrap up, if that's okay, how do you see the Stratton Motor Company in 10 years' time, or where's its direction of travel, do you think?
Well, I think things are changing rapidly, and I think that basically we'll be concentrating on service and selling nice used examples of Aston Martin. So
Right.
this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're trying more to specialise in Aston, more and more. It would have been great just to be solely Aston Martin, but it's not always possible, because you know you've got a lot of customers that have got half a dozen cars, and they say, well, you know, I want you to look at my McLaren, or I want you to look at this, or I want you to
Well, I
look at
noticed
that.
some of the beautiful Rolls Royces in
That's
your
right,
workshop
yeah.
at one point. Not the BMW jobs, the early ones.
Yes.
Yeah, the beautiful Cornish or something like that.
Well, that really comes from our general manager. He used to run Bentley Cambridge, and
Right. So it's his fault.
when I got him on board to look after part of the business
Yeah.
for me and help, because it's obviously got too big with all the other businesses you run, with the car storage, the aviation side, the motorsport. Can't do it all on your own.
Yeah.
So he sort of runs the day-to-day workshop, and basically he brought a lot of his Bentley customers and Rolls-Royce customers
lovely.
with him. So they.
Do you know, Roger, it's lovely going into your workshop, because it's not just a sea of Aston Martins, which is always a joy to see anyway. But I go there and I'm seeing majority are Aston Martins, you know, from Newport Pagnell V8 to modern DBX, as you say. Then there was a Lotus Esprit.
Yeah.
Then there's an Elise. Then we've got a Rolls-Royce Corniche. It's quite a little motor show going on in your workshop. You know, British Motor Show. It's quite an
Yeah,
ideal.
well, I think that all comes from our location, because around this part of the world, East Anglia, there used to be Bentley dealers.
Yeah.
There used to be Lotus dealers. There used to be sports car dealers all over the place. Now there isn't. There's none.
Really.
So there's nowhere to take your Bentley to be serviced. There's nowhere to take your Ferrari to be done, your Porsche to be done. Until recently, Porsche have now got a place in Norwich, but so we don't see very many Porsches. But we do see a lot of Ferraris. You know, when I say a lot, you know, you might see 1 or 2 a month in there. You'll see the odd McLaren turn up. And the other thing is that we specialise in things that other people don't do. We specialise in carbon fibre repairs. We specialise in fiberglass repairs. We specialise in aluminium repairs. And we specialise in heritage cars. Now,
the carbon fibre is an important part because so many cars have it, don't they?
Yeah, and basically, if you go to other garages, they're volume dealers. Most of the garages around here are volume dealers, and they don't make any parts. They don't look at the future. That all they do is just keep their cars that they're doing at the moment on the road.
Finally, Roger, I'm going to put you on the spot now. I'm aware some other broadcasters did ask you what your favourite Aston Martin is, and you said all of them. So I'm not going to allow you to cop out this time. So I'm going to.
They're all my favourites.
Yeah, of course they are. So I'm going to refine that question by: it's a lovely sunny day here in Norfolk. Your phone's going to be taken off you, so that damn thing's not going to keep going every 5 minutes. And you just say to your staff, I'm going to go out. I'm going to put unbutton my tie, and I'm going to take an Aston Martin out today for a drive. Which one today would you take out for a drive?
Well, I think you've answered your own question, because I think every car has got a different job.
Yeah.
And I'm forever having to put miles on Aston Martins that we've either rebuilt or, some that we've completely restored. I like to put 500 miles on before they go. So it depends on where you're going to what you take.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're going to dinner in a restaurant in the middle of Norwich, you're not going to take an Aston Martin to park it on the street and have someone open a door onto it. If you're going to a friend's house for dinner, it doesn't matter. You can take whatever you like. So you think, oh, well, is he likely to buy a car soon? Maybe, I'll take that because he's like, and I'll take something that he likes and park it. And this is what I used to do in period. If we were invited to a party or an event, I used to think, oh yeah, actually better take a Lagonda, and I'd get that car virtually outside the front door so that it could be seen and everybody talking about it. So in answer to your question, I think it depends where I'm going, and do I want a convertible? Am I going to leave it somewhere? I'm lucky. I've driven just about every make of Aston model they've got.
Yeah.
I have the ability to drive anything I want. So, it really is still I'm always thinking about the business, what advantage it is to taking this or that.
Very clever, avoiding the question yet again. Okay, right. But I think it depends on the day, what you're going to do, whether you need. I think you would need aircon today because it's a cracking day.
Well, also, to be honest, if you need a 4-door car, you've got two options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really. You, if you want an older car, you've got the Lagonda or the Rapide, or you've got the modern Rapide. I actually got a modern Rapide, an AMR one, and a DBX 707, and they're both good cars to use. Handy if you've got 4 people that you want
absolutely.
to transport.
I mean, going around the facility here, you got a choice of a DBX, you got a V8 Zagato, you got Volantes, you got Vantages, you got some 4-door cars. It depends on the mood you're in. There's always an Aston Martin that you have to fit the mood, and probably for your customers as well, isn't it?
That's correct. But once I've got a car prepared, and if we take it in, I do a few test miles in it, and then it goes in for paintwork or preparation. It goes in the workshop. I finally test it, and once it's gone in for paint and it's gone in for final preparation, it goes in the showroom. I then don't use it because I wouldn't get it out of the showroom unless it was for a specific client, because I'll work on the next one. I've always got half a dozen cars waiting to be tested, so I'll try and use those. So I very rarely use the car I want to use, because I've got to put certain miles on certain cars, ready for the customer.
Roger, it's been a joy being with you today. You've been in the industry over 50 years here.
Well, as I said before, I left school at 15, and I was in the industry before that. My parents retired in 59, so really all my life I've been connected with cars, from serving petrol when I was about 5 or 6 and earning a few quid on the. I can remember serving petrol when it was 19 and 6 for 4 gallons.
Ask your parents, kids.
Which is a pound, isn't it?
Yeah, a pound, yeah. Well, as I was going to say, you've been in the industry a long time, and Sue from the Heritage Trust is with me. We've been following you. You've been running around and bouncing around with same degree of enthusiasm, and probably as you did all those years ago. And I think long may it continue. It's been an absolute joy being with you, Roger. Thank you for showing us around.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.